Hello, hello, hello. Definitely getting things set up and rolling today. Hopefully, everybody had a decent time. Things actually went moving the way they normally do. Had interesting moments over the last couple of days. And, of course, had my own moments where looking over some things. So, figured I can get rolling with a few other things and wanted to talk about some stuff. Might have possibly had a moment where I might have been almost scammed, but I managed to cut and run off that one pretty tight because the information just was too good to be true. So, definitely have to move on from that today, and I'm definitely glad people come. So, let's have a good look at this because something about a viral progressive pastor. So, yeah.
Pride, friends! You can't say that. Why not? Aren't you supposed to hate gay people? I don't think Christians are supposed to hate anybody. I love LGBTQ plus folks. That's why I'm an affirming pastor.
Yes, I agree. Christians are not supposed to hate anyone. In fact, Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself, and that includes our LGBTQ neighbor. So if you're watching this and self-identify as a Christian, but you're hating, mocking, or mistreating LGBT people, then you are in active disobedience to Jesus' command and
True.
living in sin. You need to stop and repent. And I'm telling you that because I love you. You see, loving someone doesn't mean affirming everything they do or even how they self-identify. Sometimes love requires us to speak the truth when someone is living in a way that's contrary to God's will. As the Apostle Paul says, love does not rejoice in wrongdoing.
Thank you. Thanks for the
What
follow.
do you mean when you say affirming? I don't think being LGBTQ plus is sinful in any way.
This is the heart of the disagreement. Is there anything sinful about LGBTQ+? To answer this question, we need to look carefully and honestly at what, if anything, Scripture has to say.
But doesn't the
Oh,
Bible
let's
say
see
in
him
Leviticus 18:22
try to
that a
cook.
man
Okay.
lying with a man is an abomination? It also says that those who follow God aren't supposed to eat pork or charge interest on loans, and that rebellious sons should be stoned to death. Okay, I get it. That when you win in battle against a town, you should kill all the males and take the females as slaves, that we should have little fences on the edges of our roof, that we should forgive debt every 7 years.
If you want to
Now, forgiving debt every 7 years would be kind of nice now, wouldn't it? All those nice, lovely student loans that everybody piled up.
understand why Christians appear to follow some Old Testament laws, like thou shalt not murder, Exodus 20:13, or love your neighbor as yourself, Leviticus 19:18, but not others, like the ones about eating pork or wearing two different fabrics, you need to understand the biblical covenants. The Old Testament contains the Mosaic Law, given by God to
Yeah,
a
the
very
old
specific
laws.
people, Israel, at a specific time, for a specific purpose. It formed the core of the Old Covenant between God and the nation of Israel, and it included hundreds of laws. Christians, however, don't live under the Old Covenant. We live under a new covenant established by Jesus through his death and resurrection. Jesus fulfilled the requirements of the law and instituted a new way of relating to God. That's why Christians can eat pork or wear blended fabrics. We're not arbitrarily picking and choosing. We're seeking to follow the commands that apply to us under the new covenant. Now, here's the key. Some laws included in the Old Covenant, like the prohibitions against murder and stealing and adultery and homosexual behavior, are also repeated in the New Testament. That shows they're not merely part of a temporary
it's a bit of a call
Mosaic
out, isn't
law.
it?
They're part of God's timeless moral law, which applies to all people at all times. So when someone points out that Christians inconsistently follow the Old Covenant laws, they totally miss the point. Christians don't follow any laws simply because they're in the Mosaic law. We follow the law of Christ, which includes moral laws that may also appear in the Mosaic law. Real quick, Red Pen Logic wouldn't exist without the generous supporters of Stand to
Ad
Reason. If you've
time.
been blessed by what we do, be sure to like, subscribe, and consider supporting our work at str.org. Now back to the video.
Gotta put in
Yeah,
that
okay, I get it. We
self-plug,
don't
of
follow
course.
Levitical law. What about Romans 1:27? Males committed shameless acts with males and received in their own persons the due penalty for their error. What about Romans 2:1? Therefore, you have no excuse, whoever you are, when you judge others, for in passing judgment on another, you condemn yourself, because you, the judge, are doing the very same things.
Romans 1 is probably the most difficult passage for the affirming pastor to explain. That's because it describes and condemns both male and female same-sex behavior. And Paul's argument isn't rooted in culture or covenant, it's grounded in creation itself. Unfortunately, rather than addressing the substance of Romans 1, the progressive pastor jumps to Romans 2 verse 1 to accuse others of hypocrisy. True.
Yeah, and that's kind of a jump towards for a call out. Mileage may vary.
Romans 2 verse 1 warns against self-righteous judgment. And yes, some Christians have been judgmental towards the LGBT community. But let's be clear, simply recognizing that something is sinful, whether it's hate or homosexual sex, doesn't make you self-righteous. Also, citing Romans 2 doesn't erase Romans chapter 1. In fact, it builds on it. Try to follow Paul's argument. Paul is pointing out that self-righteous hypocrites are just as guilty as those who engage in the sins of Romans chapter 1. Paul's point is this: whether it's homosexual sin,
and that's when it comes down to the whole fact of the entire thing. Everybody F's up. That's just how it is. And the whole thing is supposed to be about do better.
or self-righteous sin, both prove that we all need the gospel. We're all guilty. We're all in need of the forgiveness that comes through Jesus Christ.
What about 1 Corinthians 6:9? What language does your translation use? The King James Version says, "Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind." Wait, I thought this was a clear verse about gay people. Some translations refer effeminate as sodomites, but that's just a guess. The Greek is ambiguous. It refers to somebody that is soft or passionate. The Bible does not seem to say what I was told it said.
If you're serious about understanding what the Apostle Paul is saying in 1 Corinthians 6:9,
No, honestly, that is a very true thing, because a lot of the different translations get kind of mixed up. Just like any text, you can actually get things mixed up all the time, because when you go into different languages, words can mean different things.
citing one of the most archaic English translations isn't going to help. You need to look at the original Greek, where Paul uses two significant Greek words, malakoi and arsenokoitai. Unfortunately, the video never even mentions the latter term. Malakoi literally means soft or effeminate. On its own, it could refer to someone with a soft or indulgent behavior, but in a sexual context, it likely refers to the passive partner in homosexual sex. Arsenokoitai is even more explicit. Most scholars believe that Paul coined the term by drawing directly from the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament, particularly Leviticus 18:22 and 20:13, which forbid a man lying with a male as with a woman.
And of course, that's the
combines
older
words
stuff.
for male and bed, literally men who bed males. That's not ambiguous, that's intentional. When malakoi and arsenokoitai are paired together, they likely describe the passive and active participants in male same-sex sexual behavior.
Let me ask you a question. Do we follow the rest of St. Paul's sexual ethic? What do you mean? St. Paul said that celibacy is better than being married, and that even married people should practice celibacy. If we don't follow this teaching, why bring up Romans 1:26 or 1 Corinthians 6:9 as authoritative?
Paul's sexual ethic acknowledges two legitimate options, celibacy and marriage. First, celibacy. Paul never commands everyone to remain celibate. In 1 Corinthians 7:7, he calls celibacy a gift, a unique calling that allows undivided devotion to the Lord, especially in ministry. But Paul also recognized that celibacy is hard because it means no sexual relations. Second is marriage. When Paul speaks about marriage, he always describes it in male-female terms. And like Jesus, he roots his understanding of marriage in creation itself. Even more significantly, Paul sees marriage as a profound mystery that points to the gospel. It pictures Christ's love for his bride, the church. Bottom line, Paul's affirmation of celibacy and marriage don't undermine his condemnation of same-sex behavior.
I guess I've always been taught that the Bible is against LGBTQ+ people. If that was so
Yeah.
important, why didn't Jesus say anything about it? He talks about in marriage how men and women become one flesh. That's descriptive, not proscriptive. Jesus never really addressed the issue directly, only obliquely in Matthew 19, where he encourages his disciples to accept eunuchs.
We need to point out a couple of
Okay,
things here.
that's
First,
starting to mince
Jesus
hairs,
was an
I think.
observant Jew who believed the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. And guess what? The Torah prohibits the act of homosexual sex regardless of why people engage in it. That might be why Jesus didn't say anything about it. He didn't need to. Homosexual sex was not a hot button issue for first century Jews, Jesus' primary audience. Every
Yeah, it's a pretty
reference to
common thing.
homosexual
It's
sex
been the
in
common
the
way
Hebrew
for
Bible
many a
is
century.
negative, and God-fearing Jews weren't questioning whether homosexual sex was morally permissible. Second, while we don't have any record of Jesus addressing homosexuality directly, he wasn't silent on sex and marriage. In Matthew 19, 4-6,
Well, that is
Jesus
true.
affirms the creation design for sexuality by citing Genesis 1:27 and Genesis 2:24. This isn't merely descriptive of Adam and Eve, it's prescriptive. Jesus is saying that this is still the standard. Here's Jesus' view: one man with one woman becoming one flesh for one lifetime. This was a hard teaching for his hearers then, and it's a hard teaching for some hearers today.
What's a eunuch? Somebody who was born biologically male but had their testicles removed. Were they treated differently because of that? Yeah, they weren't allowed into the temple and faced discrimination. But Jesus told his disciples to welcome them? Yes, and we see that practiced in Acts 8, where St. Philip baptized a eunuch without any caveats. So Jesus and the early church welcomed people who were considered outsiders because of their sexual identity?
After teaching a narrow and demanding vision of marriage in Matthew 19, 3-9, Jesus acknowledges that not everyone will follow this path. In verses 10-12, Jesus says that celibacy, symbolized by eunuchs, is a legitimate calling for some. Eunuchs, according to Jesus, fall into three categories: those who are born that way, possibly with congenital conditions, those made that way by others, maybe through castration, and those who chose celibacy for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. When Jesus mentions eunuchs, he's not affirming alternate gender identities. That's a modern concept being read back into the text. He's not talking about
eunuchs
sexuality,
didn't
he's
actually get to
talking about
choose.
celibacy.
Normally it was the
Yes,
Romans
Jesus
going,
welcomes all.
yeah,
The gospel is
we're gonna
for
lop it
everyone.
off.
But it's only good news if you first accept the bad news, that sinners are in need of grace. That's why Jesus says we must be born again. Think about that. Jesus says we need total.
I mean, in a historical context, you got to think about some of this thing with the talk of eunuchs. They actually had a whole ton of them when it came to Rome. I mean, a lot of the emperors tend to have those because, they didn't want their concubines or wives to, be with any of the guards and all of a sudden have a separate bloodline happen.
Total transformation, not simply affirmation. In fact, Jesus wasn't interested in affirming people, he was interested in transforming people into new creations in Christ. The problem with this affirming pastor's approach is it leaves people in their sin. That's not love. Real love tells the truth, even when it's hard, because it points people to the only one who can truly transform them, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's one thing to actually call out on. With regards to all of that, when they're talking about the celibacy and marriage and everything like that, one thing we always have to remember with regards to being Christian is we all F up. And we all fall to sin. That's just how it is. Because I can even remember times when I was a lot younger and, looking to have a good old time. That's about it. I mean, there are parts of, the old brain, the way we're wired, looking for a good time. I can put that in air quotes. But the way it continues forward for that is you can basically fall into the trappings of trying to actually fulfill your desires to actually gain, what you will believe would make you whole, and you're going to chase after it and chase after it. I mean, that's just like anything else in the world. Some people, they continue forward on it. I mean, let's just set aside sex for a moment. I mean, granted, sex sells. A lot of people chase after it, myself included, trust me. All too well known on that one. But there's also other people who are addicted to gambling. Heck, there are people that are actually addicted to Genshin, addicted to gacha. There are people that are addicted to other substances, be it illicit things, could be alcohol, even smoking, vaping. It don't matter. Everybody has vices out there. All of these things can be classified as a sin if you feel convicted by it. I mean, if you know it's bad for you and you should actually quit doing it, then yeah. It is where it is, though. And that's how that tends to play out. So, of course, It all comes down to everybody is going to mess up. Everybody has the chance. It's where walking the path of being a Christian is not supposed to be an easy task. Not everybody is going to be perfect. And that's the one thing that everybody has to realize and accept. Being a Christian includes not only giving grace to other people, forgiving other people. I mean, you don't have to forget what somebody did, but you just, have to have it where you don't hate people. There's no point in hating somebody, because if you actually allow hate to be in your heart or in your head, then you're just allowing somebody to live rent-free in your head. And in regards to that, you actually could see that happen any given day on Twitter. That is how that goes. But, of course, wanted to take a look at something else as well for today and move forward into this. Apparently the Dadvocate had a thing with regards to CPS and women celebrating what I would consider seems to be a bit evil. So,
celebrating because CPS took my friend's kids and now we're outside every day.
How many different dads?
3 altogether, but only 2 of them are living.
So I have to ask.
Hey,
I don't know. How
thank you
true
for the
this is. I don't
follow.
know how the internet comes wrong with things. Are you being investigated for, I guess, the murder of one?
What? Now that was a lot. What we are seeing on screen is a video of a woman dancing in a club-esque setting, and the text overlay reads, "I gave up custody of my kids to spend more weekends like this."
oof.
Celebrating because CPS took my friend's kids
Oh.
and now we're outside every day. It appears we have a tray full of shots, and yeah, we're celebrating our friend's children being taken away by CPS, meaning like at least in the first case she just gave up custody, and who knows, maybe the dad is a better custodial figure. At least they're going with a parent, but now
Yeah,
we're
that's kinda
celebrating that
dicey.
the children are being placed into a notoriously not great of a reputation foster care system.
Now, the only thing I gotta say on this one is if this woman actually voluntarily relinquished her children and actually let it go so that she could go out and party every night, I pray those kids actually get somebody who will love them. Because, seriously, if that's gonna be the play, damn.
So that we can drink more. Great. No, that's got to be the end of it, right? Oh wait, you don't know what CPS is. If you don't know, CPS is Child Protective Services. Name is kind of self-explanatory.
And of course, I could go off on them because I have my own special needs children, and special needs children are a form of severe money to those people. So even the lightest complaint, they will come knocking at my door. I've had to deal with them for quite some time. And there's a lot of disingenuous people out there as well. So it's like, when I see somebody who willingly does this, it's disgusting. It's like, you seriously shouldn't have had children to begin with. And there are many myriads of different things with regards to it. But if you knew that was going to be the case and you didn't want to give up your life, there is adoption. You could have just done that at the start.
But basically, they only show up if shit has gone wrong, or if someone hates you enough to try to convince them that some shit has gone wrong. But before we keep going, it finally happened. The sponsor my husband has been waiting for. We got
Uh-oh.
Magic Spoon, baby. Cereal is my
Ad
husband's
time.
number one.
I've actually
squirrel
tried
brain
these.
comfort food. He's the chef of our family, but whenever he needs
Sometimes
something
it's
quick
better
and
off just to buy some
satisfying,
Fruit
cereal
Loops.
will always do the trick. Meanwhile, I am the aggressive jock of the family. I am constantly working out and trying to hit my protein goals, especially training for a half marathon this year. Magic Spoon is where our worlds collide, because it's not just a cereal. It's a high protein, no sugar, carb conscious cereal. And it manages to do all of that with that satisfying, crispy,
Yeah, they taste
crunchy,
about the same
reinvented childhood
as,
flavor
like,
without
Fruit
the
Loops.
usual chalky stickiness of a lot of other protein-rich
I didn't actually
snacks.
find
Every
much
serving
difference,
comes with 13 to 14
to be
grams
honest.
of protein, no grams of sugar, and 3 to 4 grams of net carbs, so you can feel good about what you're eating and hit your protein goals. It's an awesome, nutritious option for when you just don't have time in the morning to make a whole omelet, or by the evening when you're just way too exhausted to make dinner. And if you're feeling even lazier than that, you don't even have to grab the milk or dirty a dish. Because Magic Spoon also sells grab-and-go protein-rich treats.
Oh,
These
of
will always
course.
have about 11 to 12
Breakfast
grams
bars,
of protein,
nice
1 gram
expansion.
of sugar, and 1 to 2 grams of net carbs for some fuel on the go. My favorite flavors? I'm definitely a frosted girly on the cereal, and honestly, I would punch my sister in the face for another box of blueberry muffin treats. Sorry, girl. Go ahead and use my code DADVOCATE using the link in my description box down below so you can try Magic Spoon or Magic Spoon Treats for $5 off. You can also find it on Amazon or at your local grocery store. TJ and I spotted it in the wild out at a local Meijer recently. And Magic Spoon comes with a 100% happiness guarantee, so if you don't like it for any reason, they will give you a refund on your product, no questions asked. So click the link in the description box down below, type in magicspoon.com/dadvocate, or click the QR code right here on screen so you can get Magic Spoon for $5 off. TJ and I are going to be spooning so hard. Anyway, let's get back to the video. How I celebrated Mother's Day even though I lost custody of my kids.
Oh boy.
That was quite a rapid fire. If I had
Yeah.
to vote, though, last one is probably the least egregious because it's like, you know, we don't exactly know the reason she lost custody of her kids. Best case scenario, sometimes people lose custody just because they didn't have enough money to hire a lawyer. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't actually do anything terrible, it's just that they didn't have the funding and the know.
As a good example that I could give on that one, it's like your kid winds up getting a scratch at the playground at school, somebody decides to file a report, next thing you know, you can't actually defend yourself very well, and things fall down a rabbit hole, and then you're just boned.
Know how to secure their place custodially. So maybe, best case scenario, she's just coping. But the other two, y'all are out here
Sorry.
celebrating the loss of custody so that you can have more free time. Every parent struggles with, God, I really feel like I'm losing myself. I really feel like I don't have any time for like the simple things that bring me joy, or even like adult activities, you know? There have been so many nights where TJ and I have just struggled to try to watch anything of any grown-up variety because the day is just filled with kids. I get it, but just hire a babysitter, right? Like, I feel like if you can afford to go out and drink at a club, you could probably afford to like scale that back a bit and maybe just like buy drinks at home and hire a babysitter to like watch the kid elsewhere. You know what I'm saying? Because that stuff.
Yeah, that's a bit of a divide there, where all of a sudden, if you were having trouble trying to actually do things, thank you for the follow, with those sort of things, it comes down to, in essence, you had not enough money to actually support your children, but now all of a sudden, because they're gone, you're able to actually indulge in your vices. So it's like, it's kind of disgusting. Like, okay, why couldn't you have just figured out your budget a little bit better and figured out your time management better on this just to do what you wanted? Like, seriously.
Adds up. I hate going out to drink because everything is ridiculous. They'll give you like this much of a shot for like $20. Ways that you can party
Wow,
and live your life.
Did prices actually go up that much? I haven't been out to the bar in ages. If it went up that high, oh my god. I'm glad I don't go out to the bars anymore.
Life and be a custodial parent. People do it all the time, man. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, this has got to be like an isolated incident, right? Like, people aren't really out here like that, right? Because this guy, he makes this compilation of these clips. And like, he must have just found the 3 worst clips out there. But then I went and did some digging. This is just evidence that truly, like, it seems as though anybody can make it onto a podcast for an interview. Because I found this interview that says 27-year-old mother gave all 5 of her kids up to CPS last month. The next quote is, I had them at 16. Before we get into this, 5 kids is crazy. I'm sure some
5
of you
kids
listening right
in
now
that
have
many
5
years?
kids and you're like, Lauren, it's not that bad, but like, that was crazy of you. That was a little wild. Not wrong, but you have to admit that you're a little crazy. You know what I mean? Same with like people who like run multiple marathons. Like you're a little crazy for that. Not that it's wrong, but you're a little crazy for that. But it's like, especially if you're not married, especially if you're a single person, and especially if like these kids are all from different dads, it's kind of like one kid, all right, it's easy enough to make one kid, right? But without fully planning it. But I feel like after the third, if you weren't fully prepared to be a parent, you had plenty of opportunities to have learned from that, man. Anyway, let's watch this interview.
That's a lot.
Heck, even knowing how to actually prevent it, like seriously, at that point, it's where woman like that tends to be a bit of a grenade and really has problems with self-worth. And this is where you pretty much want to throw in that Michael Jordan meme. Stop. Get help.
It was really emotional. Giving your kids away to CPS. 5 of them.
Mm-hmm.
What are their ages?
So my twins are 2, Alex is 5, and then my oldest are 10 and 11, and yeah.
And you're how old?
27.
27, 5 children, which means you had your first child at 17?
15.
18? 15.
Well, no, pregnant at 15, had him at 16, I think.
16.
You think?
Or did anybody offer to help take the kids off of you and help you?
Honestly, like anybody that I knew personally didn't offer until after I became viral. Half of them actually left me on red before I became viral.
So you had reached out to people to help you with your kids.
Thanks for the
CPS
follow.
was
Was she saying before I became viral?
So you had reached out
Yeah,
to people
before
to help you
going
with your
viral.
kids.
CPS was a very,
What
very
the
last
heck?
step. Like I even like reached out to the dads. I even had the cops reach out to the dads 30 minutes prior to walking. Well, not both of them, but just the one. And he didn't want them either. But he's trying to get them now because of the controversy.
How many different dads?
Oh, of course,
3
because all of a
altogether, but only
sudden
2 of them are living.
he didn't
I
want to
have
have to
to
own
ask,
up
I
for
don't
it,
know how true this is, I
and
don't
all
have
of a
the
sudden
internet
she
promote
wanted to
things. Are you on,
leave
are
and
you being
go on her
investigated
own way.
for, I guess, the murder of one?
What?
Now that was a lot. Okay, so this is apparently a woman who goes by Lamborghini Lex, who apparently either is viral or trying to become viral and is able to manage social media just fine, but not 5 kids from 3 different fathers on her own at the age of 27 just fine. One of the fathers is no longer alive, and
Oof.
the interview abruptly cuts off with the suggestion that he may no longer be alive because of her? Now, who is this Lamborghini Lex lady after all? Have any of you ever heard of her or this situation?
Man,
Okay,
this is the
so
first
she's
I'm hearing
not
of this one. This
showing
is
up
just
on
nuts.
TikTok. Is she like an Instagram lady? Let me see if I can find her on there. This is just wild to me. I don't even know how to react to that one. I mean, and shame on the fathers too.
That's just
being
crazy.
Given the opportunity to get access to their children and prevent them from going into the foster care system, and then only changing their minds once the entire situation gained virality. That is such an absolute shame that 5 entire children came into the world without either of their biological parents willing to claim them, and that one of them may have been murdered by the other one.
And that's just an effed up story. That kid is going to be messed up for probably the rest of his life, realizing that his mother probably ended his dad. So, yeah, that's that might even be therapy material down the road. And a lot of prayer.
Which I'm not unwilling to believe, because we just did an entire video about the woman who killed, or at least tried to kill, all of her children's baby daddies, failed at killing one, and only managed to kill his innocent girlfriend who had nothing to do with it. Feel free to watch that one if you like getting extremely depressed. But wow, this is just wild to me. I want to read the comments on this one and see what people have to say. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of sympathy toward
You feel
Imagine how these kids feel. Well, at least she tried to reach out to someone and didn't kill them. And say the bar
What?
is in hell for men. A man will be like, well, I got you flowers and a card for Mother's Day. And they'll be like, oh my God, the bar is in hell. That's the bare minimum. But then a mother will be like, I gave up all of my children to CPS and may have killed one of their dads. And they're like, well, at least you didn't kill the kids. I think the bar is
Oof.
not only in hell for men.
Big oof.
I think we could stand to raise our standards a little bit here. As a former foster kid, it's heartbreaking that they are probably all separated into different homes, confused, and feel like mom will come any day.
Yeah,
So
that's
she
going to be
gets an
completely sad.
interview.
That's
Right,
true.
exactly. That's what I'm so curious about. Is this podcast is called Unwine with Tasha K. I would be curious to watch the full interview at this point, but at what point do I want to like continue giving the attention to?
Yeah, that's a bit of a point. Giving the attention to something like that. Because, yeah. That's just a hard one. Because, seriously, it's down to the whole chasing after your own selfishness just to walk away from everything. Yeah, I get the moment where she actually had the tee-hee. At least I didn't end my kids. So, but unfortunately everything is just going to be completely shattered. And then all of a sudden it comes down to, because everything is shattered, that's going to be some messed up kids. It's going to turn into some pretty messed up adults. And it's just sad all around. Because honestly, you'd want things to actually get better for people. And when you see this kind of stuff, that we may even be able to call it fatherless behavior, that ends up happening in the world, and we're seeing this all around. I mean, these could possibly be the exception to the norm, because I just want to be more hopeful that the world hasn't completely gone sideways in this kind of a hellhole. But who knows? That might just be my optimism talking. I try not to take the black pill. You know what I'm saying? But of course, definitely wanted to check this next one out, because, yeah, Decoy Voice, one of my faves. Love this band. Please keep this man safe.
Los Angeles isn't seeing rampant looting, this is just undocumented shopping. As first, they looted the Jordan stores of its sneakers, then snuck in Zara to steal some cheap clothes. Moving
Cheap clothes? You're gonna go raid a Zara? Wow.
on to the Apple store to steal some phones, even though they already know once stolen,
Yeah, and that's true. As soon as you steal an iPhone from their kiosk location, it's already loaded with a dummy operating system that keeps an eye on the GPS on it. And as soon as it leaves the store, it immediately bricks itself. It's never going to work.
and the devices are completely useless. So they went back to the Adidas store to steal some sweatpants.
Oh, jeez. Honestly, all these people, I don't think the tracksuits are going to work.
That'll sure teach those sneaker stores to not deploy the feds into their neighborhoods. And in case
And if you've never heard of this guy, please give him a like, a sub, hit him up.
You're wondering what stealing cell phones and sneakers accomplishes that looting work boots or textbooks don't. We solved that in an earlier episode.
Why do you think bookstores were never looted and robbed during BLM riots?
Because black people, we enjoy education.
Oh, they weren't.
They weren't. That's the point. Why would we loot bookstores?
If you wanted education, I'm pretty sure that bookstore would have been emptied.
Why would you loot designer stores?
Because, no.
That only sounds stupid because it is stupid, as the looters don't care if you're a multinational corporation or just some locally owned jewelry store.
Oh, they're in.
Yeah, that last video where there was the security guy in the back. I feel for that dude, because of course most of those places, if there's a security guard in there, they are under orders from corporate not to get involved with anything. Just try to stay safe, let people take off with whatever they're going to take off with, you know, because as far as the company's concerned, they don't want a lawsuit.
They're in. Oh,
And as this street journalist was just recording the looting in public, these peaceful protesters beat him.
Yep. Just because he's streaming on Kick on the street, they immediately consider him a rat because they think just because it's a live camera that everybody's going to get doxxed over it. Well, that's possible because if people are paying attention to the stream, it's going to happen. But this is the other side to it. All of a sudden, being a streamer and actually being on the street, I feel for Connor here, because seriously, he was just looking to, live stream what was going on the stuff, but of course, everybody else that's out there is trying to cover their faces and try to hide who they are so that they can so that ne'er-do-well's gonna ne'er-do-well, you know?
They even tried to rob Nick Shirley in broad daylight.
Yeah, of course, the
and
microphone
attacking
broke.
anybody the mob didn't like.
They're chasing a MAGA. They're apparently trying to attack.
So much for being peaceful people, as sadly the attacks weren't even the worst part about this. It's the looting that's likely the most damaging, where local business owners are losing everything.
But it is the small, the mom and pop businesses that have also been looted. Nimat, I mean, you have tears in your eyes of what they've done to your business.
Very bad.
Now, this is the kind of thing that I remember back in 2020. This is one of those things that I'm just going to go on a tangent here for a second because this just kind of grips into me. So we rewind time about 5 years. We go back to the summer of love in 2020 when the riots were going on in Minneapolis and Lake Street was burning. It was on fire, and I'm not going to kid you. That hurt. Watching that on TV. My wife is a Minneapolis native. She grew up around Lake Street. Watching Lake Street burn, that was hard. I had to comfort my wife that day because that was her getting to watch her childhood go up in flames, literally. Because family, friends, businesses, walking down the streets, seeing that, it was terrible. And this right here is just echoes of the same. And I hate to say it, but it feels like we're entering Summer of Love 2 Electric Boogaloo here. Because seriously, like we originally thought after 2020 was over with all that maybe this wouldn't happen again and things wouldn't pop off as hard as they did. But here we are again, all over. And it's just happening again. Really try hard not to black pill, because this kind of thing, it screws up everything. Because the one thing that people always, in the aftermath, always call out on it and just throw off on it. They start asking the questions next summer. Why all of a sudden all the businesses are shut down? Why nothing came back? Well, they lost all their money. It was all ripped off. It was looted. They couldn't replenish. The insurance didn't cover it. And all of a sudden, the most they could do is cover enough to get their loans out from under them so they weren't underwater. But they could never go back into business again. And it's going to be maybe another 10 years if they want to do that. They would have to save up. And whether or not they'd actually do it here on the street where they did it before, probably not. The best thing that I would definitely say is they would probably find a different place somewhere else in a different state if they were to ever start again, because they would never want to come back to this, because they would just have too many hard memories.
That it's 1 week is a riot, and people of the transgender or other things, and they close the business and nobody can come inside.
With several such cases. All because the Democrats decided that President Trump can't get a win, so let's pretend we don't have a riot on our hands and sacrifice the entire life's work of actual Americans. As some locations were lucky and LAPD was nearby.
Ah, I hate seeing this. Of course there's a mess. At least they got some of them.
But what the heck does looting a sushi restaurant have to do with anything?
What? A sushi restaurant?
They must have heard that sushi's served with ice and just started smashing, as that's Otoro Sushi in Little Tokyo. They're run by Japanese chefs from Japan and only have 3 locations that can only stay open 5 days a week for 5 hours a day. So I wouldn't be surprised if their profit margins were so razor thin they could never open again. But sadly, the Democrats aren't interested in protecting those type of immigrants. They'll only bend over back.
And that's the one thing that I sadly can say I actually saw in the last 10 years. The Overton window is shifted. In fact, what I mean by the Overton window, if you don't know what the heck that is basically where the entire political spectrum, wherever you stood on it, it all shifted. Where all of a sudden what was originally considered the middle slid to the right. And all of a sudden the rest of the window of where everything on the left was started to move, because the window moved left. And everybody who was in the middle started, I mean, if they didn't move and didn't move along with things, then they gradually got shoved over the line into the rest of the Republicans, and everything else on the left got more radical. So that's why everybody calls it out these days. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's why a lot of people actually call that out. I used to actually call myself a Democrat. Not anymore, though. I still say I'm an independent. Because I have my own views. I have my own opinions. I don't follow anybody's party line anymore, because both sides of the party lines are frickin' insane. Because both sides do stupid shit.
Backwards to defend them and their makeshift mortars, letting them peacefully beat the crap out of each other in the streets, and even pop off a couple paintball rounds at the police lines.
Oh,
as the left-wing news media first claimed, they're just having fun watching cars burn.
Yeah, as for those cars burning, yeah, what that is that self-driving car thing. That's the one thing I find the most wild, is they actually used like the app to actually pull in those things so that they could actually come on down the street, and then boom, they were able to light them on fire. So eventually, I don't know if he's going to show it, but I remember seeing footage from, ABC here, where it is, for this news coverage. They actually showed aftermath, like 4 of them lined up where they were, The only thing that's left is like the chassis and the rims.
What is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into...
With Democrat Congresswoman declaring there was no violence.
There was no violence.
Oh,
I was
bull.
on the street. I know.
And now stating it's just the exuberance of the moment.
Careful whether you see a burned car or a broken window or whatever it is.
Don't believe your lying eyes, people. Don't believe your lying eyes.
It may be the exuberance of the moment.
How fiery but mostly peaceful became the exuberance of the moment is just a prime example of how stupid they think their voter base is. As anybody actually paying attention knows what's really going on, and no matter how many times they ask ChatGPT to rephrase their lies, it can't change the fact that they've officially lost the city, somehow thinking that this will stop the raids.
Stop with the ICE raids. If ICE shows up, do not resist, claim your rights. Shh. Stay silent.
Hey, you,
Yeah,
the guy that's about to write something disgusting in my comment section.
Stop it. Get some help.
But the Democrats' plan to stop the riots was even dumber.
But the real solution of all of this is for the administration to stop the raids.
And there's where there's a bit of a problem. It's where it comes down to the difference between the Democrats that are in California versus the federal administration we currently have. And the federal administration believes it has a certain way in a certain thing. They campaigned on it. People voted on it. Things went nuts, and actually a good majority of the United States voted for it. So of course people call out on it, trying to say, no, that ain't true, that ain't true. Well, did y'all show up to the polls? Did everybody vote? I remember the margins being pretty slim. But yeah, here we are. Somebody who's actually trying to claim things as mostly peaceful. I still remember a mostly peaceful 2020. Yep, mostly peaceful.
Doubling down on that statement.
We need to stop the raids. This should not be happening in our city. The only thing it does is contribute to chaos. This was chaos that was started at Washington, D.C.
It's crazy how she's literally asking Trump to let the rioters hold the city hostage until he gives in to their demands of not enforcing our country's laws, basically admitting she cannot control the city, all the more reason that the military needs to come in and save it. But now their argument against Trump restoring order to the city is that the deployment of the National Guard and Marines will cost $134 million, conveniently forgetting that California already spends $8.4 billion, or over 800% more, on health benefits for undocumented residents.
Yeah, I used to live out towards there. Yep, the difference in the amount of money that it's going to cost. Yeah, the ICE raids are going to be a drop in the bucket compared to what is already getting shelled out in benefits and everything like that for the way they've actually done the way they do things in California. So, and on top of all that, I wouldn't be surprised why there's going to be a whole bunch of people that are looking at California and going, yeah, need to cut off your budget because it's bloated and you're wasting it.
This year alone. It's that same argument of building a wall is too expensive, so let's just load 10 times that amount on EBT accounts to hand out. So I'm glad our ICE director doesn't care and will continue the raids.
As a matter of fact, we got over 100 teams out today enforcing immigration law, and we're going to flood the zone. I've said for a month, sanctuary cities, you don't want us to arrest these bad guys that you just listed out. We could arrest them in the safety and security of a county jail. But they won't let us into jail. They release them into the community, which means we got to send a whole bunch of teams in.
Yeah, in the last 6 months, we've actually been seeing a lot of that, where all of a sudden there'd be catch and release. You know, kind of like fishermen. All of a sudden you catch them, and then all of a sudden they let them go, but they're supposed to notify. And of course, they give the notification an hour after they've already let them loose. So, of course, the person who got nabbed up, they know the situation, they know the score. They're going to hit the boots running. So they're going to have an hour lead. In that lead time, they could get in a car. They could get away. They could run down the interstate. So that's kind of the whole thing.
In the community to find this dangerous person that don't want to be found.
So if anything, the raids in LA have only increased in frequency, proudly posting whenever they make an arrest, as I really think Holman knows. Either way, he's gonna get bad press, so might as well go all in on completing the mission. The problem is, like what initiated this in Minneapolis, where apparently the rioters mistook a drug bust for an ICE raid, and even to today, Reddit is out there warning their communities of ICE activity, even if it turns out just to be the local police fulfilling a student's Make-A-Wish dream with their SWAT.
Now that is just sad. That is just sad. The paranoia is just crazy.
Team. And even when the original poster was corrected, they still stood by their warning that ICE could have been in the area, with other Redditors agreeing this was a good thing. They literally couldn't be any dumber if they tried, which makes me truly believe in the dead internet theory, as Reddit is likely just AI bots talking to AI bots, talking to anybody dumb enough to not notice they're talking to bots, talking to a couple foreign agents pushing an anti-American agenda. But ironically, and also tragically, probably the only thing that could save Los Angeles, California is Chinese President Xi, as all he has to say is, hey, I'm dropping by LA tomorrow. And just like when he visited San Francisco, it would immediately be
True.
cleaned up.
Folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true, because it's true.
And
Yep.
again, as of
Saying
recording
the
this
quiet
video,
part
it
out
keeps
loud.
getting worse for him. Where LA implemented a curfew that nobody is listening to, protests have spread up to Seattle, all the way over to New York City, and in Chicago, they just had to deploy the bomb squad into their sewers. So make sure you're subscribed, as it's about to get spicy.
Yep. And the true thing that I remember running into is just today, I saw a thing that all of a sudden they tried to pop off in like Austin and Dallas, Fort Worth, and it didn't exactly work. It got rounded up and shut down in a matter of hours because, well, there was a whole lot of presence. They were able to show up really quick. They just kind of rounded them all up, snapped it up, called it a day. Because apparently you don't mess with Texas.
Don't doom scroll on social media all day when you have my concise, lighthearted commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality, so subscribe to Decoy Voice.
Yep. Definitely give this man a like, comment, a sub, something. You know? I'm sure you'll be able to find him, that's for sure. But, of course. Wanted to also check out something else because I'm trying to keep up to date on things and I'm a bit behind on some stuff. But the whole Johnny Somali thing going on in South Korea. So there's one lawyer out there, still going to follow him to this day. Been following him since long before the Johnny Somali thing, since before the Johnny Depp thing, before all of that. It was, I think I started following him near when he first started. It's just, I hadn't gone into creation or anything like that, and, you know, hadn't really figured out what I wanted to do or where to go. So, here we are now.
Johnny Somali is trying a new Discord defense, and it absolutely will not work. And we're going to tell you about that today on this Fast Facts video here on The Legal Mindset, where we teach you to be your own judge. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney living in Asia, dedicated to ending the criminal careers of streamers like Johnny Somali and other nuisance streamers in Asia. So we've heard a lot of excuses from Johnny Somali, a lot of weak defenses from him or his team, which often, by the way, are the same people, as Johnny has a million sock puppet accounts and often he tells people to do things, they more often do them. But today's is...
This is where I don't know if he's actually been booted off of Party or not. Last I heard, I think he was actually kicked off of there. That was like his last stream.
Probably one of the lamest, but I wanted to go ahead and debunk it because some other channels have brought this up, and it just needs to be dismissed quickly for the absolute trash it is. So as a reminder, and of course we have a PowerPoint, where we're at in the process. This is, of course, the latest update. Right now, we're at the part of the cycle where typically Johnny would get away with it because there's no coverage. Of course, we are continuing the coverage, keeping the heat on him so he doesn't die. But right now, we are trying to cover this and make this continue to go viral, continue to trend, so that the pressure is on Johnny and the attention stays on Johnny through his next upcoming trial in August, on August 13th of this year. So what we have now is a new defense. So his new defense, which has come out, is Discord made me do it. I'm not kidding. It's not the tequila. It's not the I was high. It's
not the
Discord
soju.
made me do it. That's his big defense that Johnny thinks is going to get him out of jail for free. He thinks that's his escape card, and his minions are trying to argue this. Somebody who claims to have connections with Johnny, or possibly Johnny himself, we never know with these Discord personas. They're claiming that the Discord is the people and the group that created the list of statues to attack, and they were the ones that made him misbehave in South Korea, and therefore he's not guilty, right? He gets away.
The devil made me do it. You know, kind of like all those nice, lovely people way back during the satanic panic that, I mean, did all sorts of horrendous, nasty junk. All of a sudden, the devil made me do it, I swear. Or it was, the voices in my head. The voices.
Well, no, of course that's not true. First of all, Johnny Somali has already pled guilty to a number of charges. In fact, 4 out of the 7 charges he has already pled guilty to. So that doesn't matter whether his defense is one thing or another. It doesn't mitigate it at all. So
that's where you got to ask yourself the question, okay, if it actually is the voices, well, does he actually believe that he has like a complete hook into Discord, and you know, he's disassociating that all of a sudden whatever it is, you know, all the different text chats and whatever that's going on Discord is actually a major influencer over everything that he does in his life? Yeah, that's a sad life to have. But you know, honestly, I'm thinking the clout made him do it. Yeah, the clout.
4 out of the 7, that's really irrelevant. But there's further reasons why this doesn't matter, and of course why this won't work. And I'm going to give you these 3 big reasons. I'm also going to give you a note at the end to note here. So first of all, reason number 1 why this Discord defense is not going to work is Somali is not charged for attacking the statues. So one of the big things in the defense is saying we come up with the list of statues and where they were and how to go see them and how to go find them. Well, what does it matter? None of the charges he's facing, none of them, 0, are for attacking the statue. They're for a lot of other things, but none of them are for attacking the statue. So the actions involving the Statue of Peace, while they are morally and ethically disgusting, while they are wrong on a principle level, they are not necessarily criminal. And that's one of the reasons why the Korean...
Yeah, it's public outrage, that kind of thing, for actually doing untoward things to an inanimate object. Yeah, it's right up there where there's a lot of people that would see it and just not care, but then there are also people out there that are going to actually be disgusted by it and actually see that. I mean, you could even look so far as nobody mentioned the bull statue that's in New York. You know, I mean, I hear it's got a pair of shiny brass ones, and shiny for a reason. And there's allegedly a statue that is in France where the bust is very polished.
Legislature wanted to change the law, and they are changing the law to make what he did criminal and to increase the penalties for that. But up until date, that's not a thing. In fact, what he's charged with, if you look over at the actual list here, and this is kind of the up-to-date list, he's charged with obstruction of business, Minor Crimes Act, and deepfakes. None of these are for the statues. They're for 7-Eleven. They're for harassing people with a rotting fish. What his language...
Man, that rotting
on the,
fish thing
metro
was crazy.
Bus, monkey noises and loud music on the bus. For the deepfakes of the male streamer Jungman and Bong Bong. Also for disrupting Lotte World and the rides at Lotte World. None of these are related to the statue piece. So his constant trying to deflect to the statue doesn't work here at all for any of these charges he's facing. Next, the second reason is Discord or anyone else telling you to do something, no matter who it is, doesn't remove your intent. It doesn't remove that criminal intent.
That's true.
In the basic principle,
Because
of
you still
some
intended
crimes,
to do it.
right? Some crimes, not all crimes, but some crimes require intent. So let's pretend this one does, and that's a pretend because, well, that's reason number 3. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Whether Ramsey came up with the plan or he went through a plan that others made does not remove his knowing commission of the crime. If anything, it aggravates the crime because it shows he knew exactly what he was doing beforehand and he had a map, a road map to go execute it. So if anything, it aggravates it. It certainly does not mitigate it.
Showing
Other people
premeditation.
telling you to do something or you copying what others have done does not mitigate the crime in any way. It doesn't make it less. It doesn't make you sentence less. I know that a lot of people, try to deflect on this, but that's not how it works. So what I try to show here in this nice little map is whether it was Ramsey coming up with the idea and Ramsey came up with the idea and he committed the crime, that in the legal system, in the way the law looks at this in Korea, based on all of my understanding of Korean law and also talking to Korean lawyers, people experienced with the system, it is exactly the same in this scenario as if Discord told him to do it and he did it. By the way, it would be the same if Ice Poseidon told him to do it. By the way, I don't think Ice Poseidon commanded him to do any of this. But Johnny always tries to blame Ice Poseidon. So let's pretend.
I
in a
don't think
magical
Ice
pretend
wanted to
world
be
that
anywhere
Ice Poseidon
near
that
him.
Maldonado was the one that directed all of it. He would still be on the hook. That doesn't get him legally off the hook. Same thing if Hank did it. If Hank was the one who was bossing him around, doesn't really matter. The only thing in the scenario with Hank is if Hank was the one directing it, Hank as a Korean, citizen, as someone in Korea, Hank could have some responsibility, some liability there. But in terms of Johnny's liability, it isn't a defense for him. It doesn't get him out of this crime at all whatsoever. He still committed the crime. The important thing is Johnny did the crime. This last part of the segment,
Yeah.
Johnny did the crime. Johnny did the crime. It's the same thing in the eyes of the laws he's charged with. The last one is none of Johnny's crimes, none of them require criminal intent or premeditation. What
Well,
they
that's true.
require is a yes or no to these questions. And they're really simple legal questions at issue. And the answer is yes or no. If the answer is yes, Johnny is guilty. If the answer is no, he is not guilty. The first one is, did Ramsey obstruct the normal business operations at Lotte World? I know I misspelled that. It should be did he obstruct, not did he obstruction. A little bit of scuff there for you guys. That's how we know we're doing this live or semi-live. Did he obstruct the normal operations? Yes or no? Yes, he did. The normal operations.
I'd
were
agree.
stopped. The ride was stopped.
Because I actually
Security was
saw
called.
that.
That's not normal.
The
So
stream
answer
where
to that
they
is
shut
yes, that's
down the
guilty.
ride.
And then the last one is, did he publish a deepfake of Bong Bong and Youngman on stream? Did he show it? Yes or no? And it's a simple question. Yes or no, did he show it?
Yeah, he did.
Yes,
He
he's guilty.
publicized
That's
it and actually
There's no
spread
other
it out
question
there.
for the court. It's not, did Ramsey do this with hate in his heart that he came up with in the moment? No, that's not required. Did Ramsey, whether Ramsey had a plan
Yeah,
for
they're
showing
not
the
calling
deepfake
out for
or whether
motive,
he just felt like
just
showing
for
it and
the
showed
event.
it's still criminal. Either way, it's still criminal. So both of these, intent is not required. And once again, these are the ones that he's really contending the obstruction on the Lotte World
of course.
deepfakes. And once again,
'Cause
as
he
a
doesn't
reminder,
wanna
he's
be
facing up to
completely
12
cooked.
years total for what
But he's
got
already
in front of him
cooked.
so far, as a little reminder. But it's not going to stop either one of these, or it's not going to mitigate it. I think a lot of people, and maybe his Discord thinks this is going to mitigate it. This is going to put it in the minimum category. No, it won't. That's wishful thinking. It will not move it down at all whatsoever. The last thing I want to note, because this is really one thing I was kind of shaking my head at here. Some other people and channels and people are taking his fans seriously and taking members of his Discord seriously. I consider those even more worthless than comments from Ramsey and Hank, because at least with Ramsey and Hank, those can kind of be used against them, or specifically with Ramsey. Everything Ramsey says is used against him and can be turned over to the prosecutor. In fact, we already on the Somali conviction team have done that. By the way, if you want to support the team, Ko-Fi/Andrew Esquire, support the Somali conviction team. But beyond that, Ramsey uses many proxy accounts, many fake accounts. So it's very likely any information you're getting could be from one of his proxy accounts. If not, he's commanding these people to do it. He's in communication with these people. So I don't take anything they say seriously. So I really think it's funny when people take members of his Discord and fans at their word and
Yeah.
at face value, I think they're absolutely worthless. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you.
Are you guys enjoying the stream today?
Yeah. Of course. Hope everybody is enjoying. It's about how that goes, I bet. But, of course. Definitely. There is one other one to keep catching up on with Legal Mindset is Vitali and his escapades down in the Philippines and how things are going.
Vitali has found God and he is seeking bail, according to his defense attorneys. And this is just as we have news that new charges may be headed down the pike for Vitali in the Philippines. Of course, this is the Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney here in Asia, and we've been following these nuisance streamers like Vitali, like Johnny Somali on my channel from start to finish, all the way from beginning to sentencing. So we have an update today in the case of Vitali, which has been really boiling over the last 2 weeks as the legal teams are now sparring with the prosecution, submitting an information this week on 3 counts of unjust vexation, while the defense is coming up with any reason to get Vitali out from behind bars,
Oh, of
from
course.
serving time in a Philippine prison. And today
'Cause
we
Philippine
also had an
prisons are
interview, and
not
this interview was
fun.
quite telling, that just came out with the secretary in the Philippines, as well as comments from Vitali's lawyers. That was, of course, to give credit here, aired on ANC. A changed guy, lawyer says Russian vlogger Vitali seeks forgiveness, had no criminal intent. So I'm going to give you guys a translation from some of these interviews and these articles. Obviously, thank you to members of my team that have translated that and fans that have translated that. Thank you so much for that. And by the way, if you want to support my team that's been translating and doing a lot of work and other stuff related to Johnny Somali and Vitali, you can head over to Ko-Fi/Andrew Esquire and drop a donation.
Of
for
course,
the
obligatory
team.
plug.
So we'll start out here with a little bit of the translation. I'm going to read out what was said about Vitali. So this is reported today. It is possible that additional cases will be faced by the Russian vlogger who was arrested for harassing Filipinos, according to the Department of Interior and Land Government. His lawyer, Vitali's lawyer, told the news that Vitali has changed his ways and is asking for forgiveness from everyone he had aggrieved. This is reported, of course, by Lisa Anguino, saying it's been 2 months spent in jail in the detention facility of the Bureau of Immigration. Complaints were filed against Vitali after he harassed Pinoys in a mall and restaurant in Taguig City while live streaming. Next week, the hearing will start for 3 counts of unjust vexation, which should be happening very shortly. The prosecutor has already dismissed the charge of theft.
Oh,
but
well, he's lucky
it's
on that
very
one.
likely, it's very possible that the vlogger is going to face additional charges, which could include what happened in Boracay. After investigation by the
Ooh.
prosecution, said the undersecretary, Rumula, there are a lot of witnesses that came out, so they are currently being examined for the possible merits of the case. They're about to file it. Vitali's lawyer told ABS-CBN News that Vitali has gone through big changes during his 2 months in jail.
Big changes, huh?
He said if he is given the chance, he wants to personally ask for forgiveness from those he aggrieved. His attorney says he is better now because he has found his faith. We are a Christian nation. We believe in forgiveness, and I hope that we can arrive in forgiveness because this guy is really a changed guy and wants to seek forgiveness. And
that is one thing. You have to question whether or not he is using the fact that the Philippines is a Christian nation to his advantage, to take advantage of the society in the way it is. Because we all know Christians are more prone to forgiving and moving forward and moving on. So we do not exactly know because we're not there. We can't exactly see it. And for all we know, he is spending plenty of time with the Word. and is studying it completely. And we don't know if he's seeking it in full earnest. So we can pray that that actually is the case and follow along with it, but it is not our circus, not our monkeys, not our courts. So we'll see how that shakes out, because only the Philippines would be able to figure this one out.
In one statement, Rumula confirmed that he received a letter from Vitali asking him to drop the charges. However, his lawyer had a clarification. So we talked about that, by the way, last video and last couple videos, but there's a clarification. So they want to clarify the focus is not about dropping the cases, but forgiveness. So of course, this is after people gave him the pushback on this, and we covered this, and this information got out there about dropping the cases. So now it appears they're trying to shift the tactic to forgiveness and Christianity and try to make it not about dropping the cases. So, you know, we can continue the case, right? Because it's about forgiveness and it's about moral forgiveness, which is something that happens in your heart, not necessarily in a courtroom, right? Anyways, his attorney also filed for a motion for bail. If found guilty, he may be facing a sentence of up to 18 months, a year and a half in the Philippines. So this is a very important turning point. And I want to bring this up. And of course, as always, I do have a PowerPoint here. So let me throw this up on screen. And this is, of course, an update as of today. So the important thing to note here about Vitali is right now he's got these 3 counts of unjust vexation. We talked about that. Those informations are supposed to be filed this week, sometime this week, maybe later this week, Thursday, Friday, we'll see. And the estimate, once again, on the low end is 1 to 3 months behind bars, or up to 18 months. Now, what we have today is the fact that new charges are coming, which is very interesting because many people have been asking questions. Well, what about Boracay? There's a lot of things that went down in Boracay. And what are we going to do about that? Well, it seems like those may be able to come in the future. And in fact, we saw this Johnny Somali case where they initially pursued one charge, just a very simple, easy to prove charge of obstruction of business. And then they added on charges later. So this may be how it works in the Vitali case, where they initially are going to go with something very easy, unjust vexation. That is a layup in the Philippines. It's been described as one of the easiest and most simple things to prove. So they're starting with the simplest thing to prove, but that doesn't prevent them from adding more later. If the
in essence, basically stacking the charges like they did with Somalia and Korea, just stacking and stacking and stacking so that you basically screw everything up. But yeah, this next point here is concerning to me, that saying that it's Vitali claiming it. So if it's just Vitali or his lawyers claiming it, then we can all look at it with skepticism if we wish, but we would probably assume that Filipinos would be the better judge of whether or not that is actually truthful.
Prosecutor feels it's justified. And indeed, many, such as you guys in the comments below, feel it's justified. In fact, if you feel more charges are justified, let me know in the comments. So they're also claiming he reads the Bible daily, and they're obviously appealing to the Philippines as a Christian country. As someone who spent a lot of time in the Philippines, I will indeed say the Philippines is a very Christian country. A lot of folks, as an American, a lot of folks point to America, Europeans, for example, point to America as being a quote-unquote very Christian nation or Judeo-Christian nation. I would say by comparison, we all fall short of the Philippines. The Philippines probably falls short only of the Vatican City when it comes to observance. And I just noticed that during, for example, Easter week, and how serious Easter week was taken, where nothing was really open. It was very, going really anywhere on that weekend was almost a no-go, whereas in the United States, then pretty much everything is open. You might find one place closed on Easter Sunday, a couple places, but by and large, America is open during Easter, not in the Philippines. And to me, and this is just something that, this is my personal opinion, that appears to be the strategy of his attorney, right? And obviously an attorney would want to appeal to anything you can appeal to, and that's something you certainly could appeal to, which is the moral sentiment of a nation, saying, okay, think about.
Yeah, and that's very true. That's very true. For a lawyer, that would be a very smart tactic to go down the route of, even if they were being disingenuous, but I am not exactly certain in that country whether or not his lawyer would be as scrupulous as that, you know, going that route.
This way, right? But once again, that's not the only, I think the only factor that would chime in here. And I will also say that, you know, frankly, the individual morality does not necessarily echo in what legal sentencing should be. But that going on, Vitali is attempting to petition for bail. Bail is not a right for foreigners. Now, bail is enshrined in the Constitution for Filipinos, but it's not a right for foreigners. And there's a very good reason for that. And I'm going to read you and thank you to Angel Chase for sending this over to me.
Nice.
This is a section on bail from the Philippines, which is factors in granting or denying bail. So the judge considers the following when looking at bail: the nature of the deportation charge, the immigration status of the foreigner, the physical condition and age of the foreigner, humanitarian considerations, and such other considerations that will guide the commissioner in determining whether the foreigner is a flight risk, underlying flight risk, and or a threat to the public interest. Well, I think Vitali is trying to focus on his physical condition and his humanitarian consideration. So he's trying to say, oh, you know, I am, you know, I'm changed, you know, the kind of moral side of it there. And also I'm in such a bad mental condition. I'm breaking down. I have mental health issues. But the problem is a lot of these things are against him. First of all, he is not elderly. He is a person who styles himself as a healthy male. A healthy adult male is the prime candidate for staying behind bars. That's the prime category of a normal age adult male behind bars. That's kind of what the general expectation is. The immigration status, obviously, he does not have a business there, a wife there. He doesn't have some sort of support network.
He doesn't have
so there's
any
nothing that's
status on immigration.
that I would see to benefit that. Obviously, he's already been branded or is being branded a undesirable alien. So the nature of the deportation, well, this is a big thing for him because nobody will take him. So the question is, like, they wouldn't even know where to send him if he went off and what's going on. So I don't think that helps him. But the last one, flight risk, I think is the biggest step against Vitali because he has funds. He has money. Vitali is not broke. Vitali does have money. And if they do let him out from behind bars, it is highly likely that Vitali will try some method to escape the Philippines.
He would definitely hop, skip, and jump right to the right to the airport in Manila and try to jump the first flight he could out of town.
A method to get out of there and to escape any sort of punishment. He absolutely 100% has the resources to attempt to do that. There are very many high-profile cases of people that have done that lately. There's, in fact, very good cases that have been recently where people have fled the country. There's a Chinese national that did that on some very serious charges. That's a whole other story. But I think that is the factor. If I was the judge, that I would look at and saying, hey, he is really motivated to get out of there.
Yep.
And he is someone that has the means to do it and all the incentive to do it. And as soon as he does that, he can turn around and brag about escaping from the Philippines. He can turn around and rub it in their...
Then all of a sudden it turns into the angles of the clout and pushing forward and moving on to the next target, and then just pushing on and doing the cycle of his own personal content. And he's just going to keep trying.
Their face, just like the other nuisance streamers, just like the Johnny Somalis of the world that get away, and as soon as they get out of the country, they turn around and they mock the people of that country. I absolutely think he should not be granted bail. But what do you think in the comments below? Let me know, and I'll catch you on the...
Are you guys enjoying the stream today?
Yep, we'll be back with more for that. So yeah, and of course, got a couple more left here to catch up on things. I wanted to actually check out with regards to Hero Hay, seeing how things are going with him and looking things over.
Guys, hope you've had a great weekend so far. Today we're talking about Blue Sky, but not in the usual context of the voice actor click over on Blue Sky. Today we're taking a look at Blue Sky itself, as things are getting pretty bad over on Blue Sky.
Not enough people doing their part.
People on the Blue Sky subreddit to make posts like this saying not enough people are doing their part. So largely speaking, ever since I made the jump from Twitter to Blue Sky, I've been trying to rally as many artists as I can to make a Blue Sky account. I've even made a thread that can help those artists get their footing a bit better. I, however, am getting worried as I'm noticing a decline in Blue Sky.
A decline in growth.
Now, I'll never claim to know if that's normal or not, as I'm not a tech guy, and never have been. But it does concern me that we finally get a place that cares about us, only for a lot of people to just be silent about it, not helping enough. We need to have more people direct these artists to the site, genuinely. Even if it means copy-pasting the same message, more people need to hear about this. Oh yeah, let's just spam a bunch of the same stuff. That'll definitely help.
Just spam the chat.
I've been
That'll
doing it
work
all
for you.
From artists on Twitter, Pixiv, DA, Newgrounds, heck, even Ink Bunny 2 different times. Need more people to know, or the site's just going to be swept under the rug. Now look, don't get the wrong idea. I'm not here to shill for Twitter. I don't care if you use it or don't use it. You can take a look at my Twitter account, for example, and see that my own activity on Twitter is extremely minimal, especially last year. I basically didn't post at all last year. Like, a handful of posts, if that. It's only like the last month that I've started becoming somewhat active again, and half that activity is basically on my VTuber Twitter account, where I've been interacting with people who are sending me art, and especially like art of a certain type, a certain niche. Is that the way of putting it? The point I'm getting at is that it sucks for artists who went to Blue Sky hoping it would be like a better place, only to be met with disappointment, as by far most of the activity on Blue Sky seems to be like non-stop political brain rot slot posting. On that note, that takes us to the next post that reads, "The best way to help Blue Sky succeed is to share funny, interesting, and creative posts." I know this sounds like a no-brainer, but I feel a lot of us need a reality check. Guilt-tripping people, making it some activist cause, or a crusade against Twitter definitely does have some use, but it doesn't have broad appeal. The general internet goer has a stronger reaction to a post or website being cringe than they do it being a racist Nazi platform. As sad as it is, that's just the reality of things.
Yeah, and the one thing to say about this is Blue Sky, when it was created, was due to the split off of Twitter and people calling out Twitter for being the place that it is, and all of a sudden everybody now has the general opinion that people roach out to Blue Sky when all of a sudden they can't take the heat in the middle of what is now the more common town square of the internet. It's the, you say something out on the street, you're going to get called out for it. But of course on Blue Sky, that's not how it works. It's a bit of a hug box, and they know it. So they're roaching out to an echo chamber, and they're mad that it's not taking off, because what's going on is those of us who are actually on Twitter, we actually prefer to be able to have that freedom to say whatever we please, even if it's going to be slightly off color of what Blue Sky, which was created by the original people who created Twitter, because that's why they did it, is so that they could actually do this. You know? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Cross-post as much as you can. Whenever you see a funny, interesting, or creative post, share it with your group chat. Make it a screenshot and post it cross-platform. This is how social media actually spreads and grows. What I find especially funny about this post is the beginning says that we need to get a reality check. That person goes on to refer to Twitter as a racist Nazi platform. That's the exact sort of rhetoric that this person's talking about initially, as being like not actually good. Like it's actually hurting like them on Blue Sky more than helping them by constantly referring to Twitter and Twitter users as like Nazis and a Nazi platform. But then dude literally does the same thing again later in the post. Like who's gonna want to be stuck on a platform where everyone there is saying a bunch of extremist rhetoric like that? Lying about people and falsely accusing people. Like, hey, come to Blue Sky and be stuck in this hive mind of weirdos. Yeah, that's a great selling point. Oh, hold on. Oh no, what's this? These usage statistics are rather worrying. Going on to links
somebody
and analytics
discovered
about
it.
Blue Sky stats that are not looking good. Spoiler alert too. We'll take a look at a much more recent post just from yesterday where things continue to get even worse. We can see, according to these analytics, daily likers are trending down, daily posters are trending down, daily followers are trending down, daily records are also trending down. Back to that post, there is immense cope in the comments, in the replies here, and it's actually hilarious, sorting by best on Reddit. The first top comment here basically has this person trying to suggest that, well, the analytics are only down because a bunch of bots are getting banned. That's got to be it,
Oh
guys.
yeah, bots.
That
That's
explains it all. But the next top comment
Blame it on
has
bots.
a different theory. Well, the analytics are down because clearly the weather's getting nicer in the northern
Oh,
hemisphere.
jeez.
People are using social media less, guys. That's
Yeah, using social media less. Bull. I'm sorry. I remember the times when all of a sudden nice weather's going on. There are a lot of people that go outside and for Twitter, they start tweeting about having a good run, being able to get out and have the exercise, going off to a park, going off to do things, having different events outside. And what are they doing? They're posting about what they're doing, you know, or come on down to this event over here. It's looking great. Yeah, nice weather. I swear, here's 2 pills of copium.
what's going on here. It's the weather. Blue Sky is failing because of the weather, guys. Don't you know? Come on. And then this one, going on to say that Blue Sky is just less addictive than most, but it's a good thing. Now look, some studies do claim that social media use does increase when the weather's bad, but regarding an entire platform tanking because of that, it seems like a dubious claim, in particular because, first of all, the studies have extremely small sample sizes, and second of all, perhaps even more importantly though, is that, well, worldwide the weather's going to be different in different places, so it's really hard to actually come to a valuable assessment based off such metrics. And when it comes to Blue Sky's plummeting engagement rates, plummeting analytics overall,
Oof, yeah.
well, there's certainly more important factors to analyze than just trying to say it's because of the weather. That really comes off like a bunch of cope. Oh my gosh. What the frick? Someone else said it's the weather too.
Yeah.
No way, bro. It's probably the weather, honestly.
Yeah, probably
when you
the
get a new
weather.
job,
Yep.
My dad said, make yourself noticed. Let them forget about you, then make them realize they can't live without you.
Oh, right.
It's probably good for Blue Sky to fix problems for a few months. That way, when we need it, when Twitter implodes, it will be robust and take over.
Oh my god, the amount of copium on that last line is just crazy. When it implodes. Dude, have you seen the metrics?
Yeah, we'll see about that, won't we? And yet things continue to get even worse. We got this post that reads, interactions, responses, and likes way down last month. Anyone else have their post interactions, responses, and likes decline drastically in the last month since Muskite left the WH? Has a lot of people returned to X, formerly known as Twitter? Just curious if others have experienced this too. No, I'm not here to bash Blue Sky. I left X. We can see the top post here reading, I feel like Blue Sky is generally down in excitement now. Less and less people I'm following post, and less people sign up to Blue Sky. It's not a good sign.
Yeah.
To be a strong platform needs fresh blood constantly. Response reading, the rollout of features has been too slow for most people. I get Blue Sky as a small team, but that's not going to stop people from leaving once they get tired of waiting for features other sites already have. Conversely, however, this response saying, nope, still totally normal for me, and this one saying, my interaction levels feel normal personally. But then we've got this one. It says,
oh boy,
yup,
wall of text.
I gave up and deactivated last week. My first couple months on the platform, starting December last year, I got 1,400 followers, including many of the heavy hitters who don't follow many people. Tons of engagement. It was great. Tons of great accounts to follow, and it was nice to have my ideas heard. Past couple of months, if I make one non-reply post per day, maybe one per month or less gets more than 5 likes. And usually that's if one of the bigger accounts sees and reshares it. A non-reply post getting seen on its own seems virtually impossible in recent months. It's like a spigot shut off, or they have shadow bans, and I have no idea why I'd be subjected to that.
Oh, jeez.
Similar content will get hundreds of likes on Threads, even though I only have around 650 followers over there. That platform, of course, has its own issues, but I'm just sharing my comparison experience. And I know someone's going to say this is complaining, whatever, it's not. Just stating facts and concurring with OP that engagement is way down lately. I'll reactivate in a month or two and see if anything's changed. And there's this one that says, deader than a doorknob. It's like I'm talking into a large empty void. I left Twitter and had a ton of followers, constant engagement, likes, retweets, and then deleted and went to Blue Sky. It's dead Ned. But hold on, guys.
But let's
Maybe
see
we were
here.
wrong.
It's growing.
Blue Sky's growing again. Let's hope this trend continues. From just one day ago, this made by a top 1% poster on the Blue Sky subreddit. They must know what they're talking about. They added on to this saying, on the 7-day Blue Sky stats charts, we're finally seeing green numbers. Wow. Let's take a look at these green numbers. Wait, there's red too. Uh-oh. Daily users on Blue Sky down 0.2%. Daily posters on Blue Sky up 0.3%. Daily posts on Blue Sky up 0.1%.
Oh, wow.
Daily likes on Blue Sky up 6.1%.
Those are some pretty tight
Daily likers on Blue
margins.
Sky up 0.3%. Oh my gosh. No, this one can't be right. Daily follows on Blue Sky down 0.132%. Well, that's fine. This is definitely good news, right? A top response reading. Those daily active users are not a good sign. I
Yep.
want nothing but the best for Blue Sky, but this app will likely remain a very niche product that doesn't reach
Yep.
mass market appeal. They don't seem to have the bandwidth to build this app in a way that scales fast or attracts Twitter users. And as terrible as Twitter is, people still use it. Response they got reading, quote, as terrible as Twitter is, unquote, why do you want to recruit those users? If that sounds so terrible, why would you want those people to come over to Blue Sky? To what end? To make it worse here?
Oh,
Blue Sky
gatekeep.
more than doubled its user base in
Gatekeep
6
and
months,
cope.
which was more than 30 times growth a year ago when it opened up. It's growing just fine for a social network. We're just corporated pilled to assume anything but exponential metric explosive growth is somehow a failure. Response to them, reading, you know that Twitter isn't just politics, right? What about the anime community on Twitter, which is very active? Don't you want them? I follow countless accounts that follow anime, news, artists, voice actors, and friends sharing what they're watching. The majority of anime community I see outside artists on Twitter are reactionaries and drama accounts who use anime like any other pop culture thing to radicalize young people. Oh my gosh, dude.
Wow.
Mostly young men to right-wing causes.
Mostly
I'm not interested
white
in courting
young
those
men.
those people over to Blue Sky, no. The brain rot, this is what I mean, dude. Some of these people are so freaking brain rotted, it's sad. Someone else says to them, yeah, I don't know what side of Twitter you're on, but there's a bunch of anime accounts that don't do the things you say, and this doesn't take into account every other topic where they have a gigantic advantage. I've tried seeing if my favorite fandom exists on Blue Sky, and 9 times out of 10, it's absolute crickets. That's not even mentioning other languages, where the Bird app has an even more gigantic leap. Pretending like Twitter is full of devious users who only spread hate is like thinking people who drive cars hate the environment and litter everywhere they go. Yeah, that sort of person is like the average Blue Sky user, completely brain-rotted, politically obsessed, and delusional. Another response here saying, it's basically plateaued. I mean, it'll be what it is for those still using it, but the days of fast growth are over. The Big Tell, the biggest follower base, AOC, has already stopped posting on Blue Sky, and it's only been posting back on X. The responses they got reading, AOC's team needs to learn how to cross-post, but that chart shows numbers that are quite healthy for a new site. Wow, I didn't know AOC stopped posting there. That is not good for Blue Sky. Blue Sky is larger than AOC. So yeah, it's really not looking good over there, but let me know what you think about this stuff. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed my coverage. If you did, please consider liking and or subscribing. Appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, unfortunately, how things go, I'm going to have to call it a night here, unfortunately. And hopefully everybody is having a decent enough night. So we'll have to actually see about hosting and rating and see how things go with that. So let's see here. Let's see what I have. Yeah, I figure we're gonna raid into Pickle. See how she's doing. I'm surprised she's actually running something right now, but yeah, may as well go with it. So
yeah, you can't just be like, hey guys, I'm
hopefully
graduating
everybody
because
has
I'm
a
gonna
good
be
one.
this next corporal VTuber and then not work for 4 months. Sleepy, Cleo, and Mario in the basement for over a year. Yeah, that's because of their former contract.
And everybody have
One
a
of
good
them, or
night.
2 of them, were in the basement for